I literally thought it was a hypo, and I'm like, welcome to Amazon Answers. I'm Jared, and today we are discussing the new Wonder Woman history that is at least going to be established in Mark Waid's History of the DC Universe. Now, I've seen some mixed reactions to this online, so I kind of wanted to dedicate this week's Q&A to that, and at least Wonder Woman's history in general. So let's get into this. If you guys have any questions during it, just let me know. But for those of you that don't know, all right, here's what happens. Mark Waid was on a podcast talking about some of the history of the DC universe that he's establishing in his book, and he got to Wonder Woman. So one of the things that he's doing with Wonder Woman is, and you guys that watched my Wonder Woman Immortal video know that I actually may have manifested this. It's that Hippolyta was Wonder Woman versus during World War II. Then after World War II, she came back to the island and then ruled, obviously, wasn't Wonder Woman. And then at a certain point, the origin that he says that is canon is the rebirth Wonder Woman year one. So, okay, there was that. But it's like essentially Steve crash lands and then Diana becomes Wonder Woman. So, and then obviously it goes on to the whole, like, it goes into the regular Wonder Woman timeline. So that's kind of what we have. So again, to go over this, Hippolyta was Hippolyta was Wonder Woman in World War II. From what this indicates, particularly with year one being the canon origin, this indicates that Wonder Woman is not like immortal. By immortal, I mean she's not like ancient or thousands of years old, particularly since year one is the canon origin for Wonder Woman. And I like that because the idea of Diana being ancient is always weird to me. Plus, adding on to the fact that I know some people don't necessarily like Diana being a legacy character, but that explains why Wonder Woman was in the JSA. But then because the way we had it before, which is where it didn't make sense, is that Diana served in World War II, left, came back during the modern times when Steve crash landed, but still didn't know man's world. So it didn't make sense the way it was before, and they're not going to retcon that Wonder Woman never served in the JSA because there's too many books that use her on there. Plus, it was already, you could kind of see that coming because in like all the post-crisis Wonder Woman like content, it was established, at least up until the modern post-crisis, that Hippolyta served on the JSA with Diana. So he's just bringing that back, which I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And you know what? That actually is like the best way to do it. And it also explains why Hippolyta was so like against Diana showing up in man's world during that, because she's seen the horrors that man's world could unleash. So you know what? I kind of dig that. I really, really, really dig that. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, that kind of works. Hey, what's up, Cameron? So that's where it gets really interesting with the lore. So what do you guys think of the new Wonder Woman history? Because personally, again, I like it. I think it actually works and clarifies a lot of. Hey, what's up, NJ? So what do you guys think with the new Wonder Woman history? Because I think it settles a weird contradiction that they tried to do with modern day Wonder Woman. And again, as Britt and I have indicated, she's not like, I haven't checked out yet. How good is it? This is a good change. So again, for those that just came in, I'm going to go over it again. In the new history of the DC universe, Hippolyta was Wonder Woman during World War II and served on the Justice Society. And then she left, came back to the island, served as queen up until like Steve crash lands. Then Diana becomes the Wonder Woman. And also the canon origin comic is Year One by Greg Rucka, which is cool because that, again, firmly establishes that Diana was at least born in the modern day. Because let me clarify this. I'm not against Diana being immortal, like from modern day and on. I'm against her existing for thousands of years before she like becomes a member of the Justice League per se, because I think that really undermines. Plus, you can't then pair her with literally any character because then it gets oddly icky in terms of age differences. So this really cleans up a lot of her timeline and honestly explains like a metric crap ton of stuff that has been confusing with Wonder Woman for a while. So I'm more supportive of it. I could see, I understand why some Wonder Woman fans don't like it because they prefer having Wonder Woman not be like a legacy character per se. But I think that with the way that DC is set up, with the way that DC is determined to have a Wonder Woman serve on the Justice Society, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So I'm like, at the very least, if we're stuck in this, let's say, status quo, this at least clarifies it a lot. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't like that Hippolyta was the first one, but I'm glad Diana's in the monitor. Yeah, I'm like, it's a trade-off. And honestly, if I have to live with it, it's not really that bad of an idea, and at least it doesn't make Wonder Woman old as dirt by the time she like hangs out with the DC universe. So I'm cool with it. It's one of those things that I'm like, I mean, it makes sense. Hey, what's up, Dangus Den? But yeah, it's like I see where they're doing it, and this is another thing that is really making me really like appreciate this new effort for DC to clarify the timeline. And yes, they could very much like contradict it later on, but until they do that, I'm going to be happy with what we have because at least they're resolving this in some way. Let me be clear on that. At least they're not just leaving it to say for like ever. So I really do like appreciate them at least putting in the effort there. And they did it, I think, in a way that is the most like, it's the least confusing way. Let me put it to you that way. Very interesting to see how it'll turn out. Mark Waid's a great writer. Yeah, I mean, if there's one person that I would trust to at least come up with a history of the DC universe, it is Mark Waid. So I'm like, okay, I absolutely hate this. And I think based on everything I saw on social media, many Wonder Woman fans hate that it reduces her to a mere legacy character and uniqueness, unlike the OG of the DC's train. I understand that, NJ, but let me put it this way. They're not going to retcon it out that there was no Wonder Woman on the Justice Society. So we have to have this. And Diana being that old, leaving man's world, leaving to go to man's world. Her first time is in World War II, then coming back and then going with Steve, and then acting like a fish out of water with man's world again. This doesn't ultimately the timeline doesn't work if we're keeping Wonder Woman as a member of the Justice Society in some capacity. However, that creates a plot hole. Is that why would she not be able to go into man's world when Apollo to work besides good men? No, it's because the way I kind of think of it is Hippolyta doesn't know that like man's world per se has changed since World War II. So as far as she knows the horrors of war in man's world. So she is more like trying to protect her daughter from encountering that type of like hostility. Again, she doesn't know the way man's world is now, which I think kind of works. It still lets Diana be the one to kind of show the Amazons that man's world is different than it was when Hippolyta was Wonder Woman. So it still attains the overall like plot here for lack of a better term. But I could see why some Wonder Woman fans are upset. You know, you have every right to be upset. I personally disagree, but just think about it this way: with the current status quo that they want, this is the way it has to be. True, considering how horrible World War II. Yeah, exactly. She's protective because ultimately, if you notice, even with the Perez origin, or like even in year one, she still allows Wonder Woman to go into man's world. So you know what? That actually like works for the history of the DC universe. So she still allows her to do that, and it leaves out because here's the thing, NJ. Even if you wanted Diana to date a woman in man's world, it doesn't work because, and this is coming from someone that's a Super Wonder fan, because even if like if we kept it the way it was, Diana's like centuries of years old, dating like let's say Barbara or Artemis or anyone like that. So ultimately, it gets pretty creepy a little bit with the age difference. So at least this cleans that up. My day's going fine, Tavi. How's your day? But so that's kind of my like way of looking at it. And at the very least, at least they addressed it in some way instead of just leaving it, because it used to be like very confusing and really like. Speaking of Wonder Woman, you saw the preview for the train. Yeah, I did. I talked about it on Super Wonder Legacy, which is coming out tomorrow. But yeah, it's very cool. I'm like, is it the best like scenario that we could be in? No, but at the very least, it resolves a really, really, really confusing timeline in a way that, again, if let me put it this way, if they were going to eliminate and to make it so Wonder Woman was never a member of the JSA, that'd be one thing, but they can't do that. So they're like, okay, let's just resolve it this way. So it's like, just simplify it with and so it resolves in the situation that we want a Wonder Woman on the JSA. That's a requirement. So he has to do it some way, and at least this way, it's not like Diana is like old as dirt and stuff. So that's kind of my approach to this new like history to Wonder Woman. And it's not altogether horrible. So I'm like, well, okay, that kind of works. So yeah, so what other questions do you guys have about Wonder Woman's history, Wonder Woman's like world and such? Because this is a Q&A show, and I love answering your questions. This could be anything about Wonder Woman. Ask the Lord of Comics your burning questions. I get that, but this will ruin her uniqueness as an OG hero. Will make her No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And plus, here's the thing. It's like that. It doesn't make her lesser. It really does. I think people are over exaggerating it, because she still gets to define. She still is the first Wonder Woman in the modern time. So yeah, it's like she's the second one to physically wear the suit. However, she gets to define who Wonder Woman is in the modern world. So that's another way to look at it. And it's not, no, she is not lesser than Superman and Batman. And that, again, you have to get away from that mindset, because it doesn't make her like lesser. Plus, here's the other thing. It also makes like the Wonder Woman name has always been associated with protecting people and like justice. So just think about it that way. But you guys gotta like not approach this like it makes her lesser than Batman, Superman, because it really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. Arguably, because she's the only one that's ever been Wonder Woman in the main timeline, it makes her more unique. It makes her more like more of a hero than Batman, Superman. Because how many people have had the Batman, Superman mantle, and they still keep trying to have multiple Batman and Superman? She is unique in that there's only ever one Wonder Woman at the same time. So just think about it that way. Is it ideal? No, but at the very least, it does. In a way, Wonder Woman has always been more like unique than Superman and Batman. And again, that's why because NJ, think about it this way. I've always said this. The reason why I hate when DC puts multiple people with the same mantle is that it like, I don't want to say, it does, it oversaturates it, but it degrades the value of the mantle, which having it where, okay, Hippolyta was Wonder Woman during World War II, and then Diana was Wonder Woman during the modern day. What that leads to is there's only ever been one Wonder Woman at the same time. So that makes the mantle of Wonder Woman so much more special than the mantle of Superman and Batman. So think about it that way. So it doesn't. So yeah, it turns her into a legacy character, but the way they did it, it further like makes the Wonder Woman mantle all the more special in that there is just one Wonder Woman. So I mean, I hope that kind of clarifies it and makes it a little more palatable, because otherwise it's like, otherwise we leave it with a very convoluted timeline, because we know that DC is determined to keep Diana to keep Wonder Woman in World War II. So that's kind of where we are for right now. And again, it's like, again, I want to clarify this. Is this the most ideal scenario? No, the ideal scenario would be to make it so no Wonder Woman was in World War II. But you need that because you want Wonder Woman to serve in the JSA, and they've established that in the continuity. So it's either this, it's either this, or we keep her where Diana was the convoluted going back and forth. I kind of prefer this. It's simpler to understand. But so what other cues do you guys have, or what other points do you want to make about this change to Wonder Woman's history and stuff? Because again, it's not really as bad as people are saying it, because they are kind of, I think a lot of Wonder Woman fans are overreacting to this because they're forgetting about what this actually does to Wonder Woman in many ways. Tevia says, I just realized something. This whole Wonder Woman being in World War II reminds me of that's what started it, because what happened was they wanted to align Diana with the DC EU version, because that was where Wonder Woman was immortal, like coming from World War One. So that's where it kind of went to. But it's like in all the origins, they didn't do that. Does this timeline have Super Wonder and the dumbass breakup? I don't know. All we know, okay, so here's the Wonder Woman timeline as we know, Cameron. This is according to Britain, her sources, backed up by a Mark Waid interview. So this is what the origin is. So you have Hippolyta's Wonder Woman in the JSA. Then she goes back to the island. Then she creates Diana. Then the Rebirth Year One story is canon. And then New 52 Justice League is canon. The Justice League Origin volume. I'm not sure what goes on after that yet, when they haven't clarified that, because issue 2 hasn't come out yet. And that will go up to like Wonder Woman being in World War II. So we'll see what happens. That'll probably be clarifying like Wonder Woman and like issue 3 or 4, because the 4-issue series. So that's kind of where it's gonna like fall onto. And Brit's here, so I'm gonna play her intro as well.
He's back.
Then Brit says Hippolyta was traumatized by the World War II era, and that's why she's so protective of Diana leaving, but knows that the outside world needs her and believes her daughter can and she couldn't. Yeah, exactly. So that's another way to look at it, that actually is more, it clarifies why Diana was so, why Hippolyta was so against Diana going into man's world in the first place. So it really, in many ways, it protects the integrity of the character. So that's kind of another way to look at it. It's kind of like that. And again, if you guys still don't like it, that's totally fine. You guys are allowed to have your opinions, but it's just kind of something that I like, the clarifying it a little more and simplifying the timeline, because that was always something, and this is going back like months, that I felt was like, her being immortal doesn't make sense in this. Her being like thousands of years old just doesn't make sense in the comic timeline as it exists. So I'm like, that's a lot. What they should have done at the very least is release another like Wonder Woman origin book by the time that like they made the decision to make her thousands of years old, because it doesn't work. Plus, here's the thing. Now you can easily explain when like when like some people referencing like Diana in World War II, she can just say, "Oh yeah, and people confuse me with my mother all the time." So there you go. That works. That's how you can easily like, because there were some stories that reference her being in this. You're trying to simplify 80 years into one is difficult. Yeah, I know. So I'm like, this is the simplest way to do it, and honestly, the easiest way to like rectify a lot of this. And again, I'm not saying it's the best way, but it's the best way that attains the end that DC wants. Yeah, and honestly, at the end of the day, for me, this issue actually sticks this time. It most likely will, until there's another like contradiction, i.e., Tom King. But honestly, it really could lead to like a lot of like help with Wonder Woman. And she very much needs, because there's been so many contradictions to her history, she needs a simplified history, because that way people are, it's easier for people to like know her story really well and get into her. Because otherwise it's like, okay, so which origin is it? Is it a politician? Is it this? Was she World War II? Was she not? No, she wasn't. She was just Diana. And I'm like, okay, that works. That is the clarifyingest way to do it. And by the way, in terms of which origin I think this does, I don't know if Britt, you can tell me this. I don't know if Mark Waid clarified which origin is canon, but I feel like they're going to go with the Clay origin this time. I feel like they're going to distance themselves as much as possible from that part of the book. So that actually works really well. So what I may do, by the way, for a Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm going to make a timeline video for Wonder Woman, specifically when all 4 issues of the history of the DC universe are out. That way I can have like all the information, and I'll make like a definitive Wonder Woman timeline video. That way, if you guys want to know Wonder Woman's like history on the DC timeline, here's where it is. Hit the history of any Wonder Woman. So there is that essentially. So there's like a lot going on with this book, and honestly, again, a revisiting of the DC timeline was drastically needed, because it's like, particularly because what you're doing is, here's the thing, you're trying to get more people into DC Comics, and that is important. You want the fan base to grow. Adding into the fact, it gets to, okay, so wait a second. In order for people to like really hop on the comics, you do need the origins to be a little simplified in order for like regular people to like hop on the character. Because all this, something fall. I think something fell. Hang on. Technical difficulties, folks. Okay, my Superman card. So I'll just put this like here. Okay. Because here's what you guys have to like realize here. Because what this does is, part of the reason why people it was so hard for people to get into Wonder Woman is because her history is chock full of contradictions, up to yin yang. This simplifies it. This is what Wonder Woman needs. Now, again, it's not the best scenario, but for the health of the character, this is the way to go. In terms of the overall health of the character, because otherwise, look, the character is just gonna, people aren't necessarily going to be able to like get into the character that well, and they're gonna be confused. And there's the one thing that you do not want is you do not in any way want the fan base to be overly confused, because here's what this leads to. People essentially go, okay, so which origin are we doing, or which if the timeline is confusing, people are going to be like, okay, I don't want this. No, I'm done. I don't want to have to do like 10th grade statistics in order to understand Wonder Woman. So that's kind of it's kind of like it's kind of that like idea there. It's that's why it will ultimately help the character more than it hurts, at least in my opinion. And again, this is all part of this is all my opinion according to like what I have seen and like understand for the most part when it comes to like the overall fan base of DC Comics. What do you guys think? I you let me know. Tell me what you guys think about this. What are you guys thinking about this with the immortal stuff? Do you think it was better off when she was immortal, and why is that? I would love to know that question there. Honestly, at the end of the day, we need new readers. Yeah, that's my point. Because if the characters' origins and stories are like way too confusing, guess what? No one's gonna. This is one of the reasons why Wonder Woman has been a old like well, not old, has been a low seller because it's seen as too impenetrable or like too confusing for like an average person to get into. With Batman, it's a simple origin. Superman, simple idea. Wonder Woman, now it's simpler and it's easier to understand and it's more straightforward. That's just the way I see it, and it could be that DC drops the ball with this at a later date. But I'm going to give them a legitimate chance because this is something that I think is good for the overall health of the character. So what do you guys think? Let's see what people personally. For me, I was fine with one of them being immortal or not. It doesn't bother me either way because for me, one of them is a character that matters. Well, that matters more than her being immortal or not. Yeah, I know, but it's like it doesn't work even with her. Like at least now, it's more like it's less creepy when Wonder Woman dates people because it's like if she's immortal and she's like thousands of years older than people, it kind of gets kind of icky. So that doesn't really work. I also believe that they would go for a definitive Clay origin. This doesn't mean that she's not immortal. It's just yeah. Let me clarify, NJ. It doesn't mean that she's like immortal. It doesn't mean that she's not immortal from this point on. Yeah, exactly, NJ. What I mean, I'm supportive of her being immortal as long as it's from now on forward. In other words, she's created or molded from clay in the modern day, and then she's immortal up until like however long that is. Even if Immortal Wonder Woman is like the end of her story, which I think that would be a great idea. Now, can you imagine if Wonder Woman, the end of Wonder Woman of Diana is the future state book? That would be fantastic. But that's what I mean when I say immortal. When I say I'm against her being immortal, I mean her being like ancient thousands of years before she meets like Steve, Clark, Bruce, and all that stuff. Maybe even now she loses the immortality and slowly age like Wolverine. They played with that before, but I'm fine with her being immortal from this point on because that actually adds a lot to her story and stuff. But it's one, yeah, no oldest dirt Diana. I know Britt and I are like really celebrating this because this is one thing that we've talked about on the show. Let me put it this way: it worked for the Tomorrowverse Wonder Woman story because that was like a unique take on the immortality stuff, but it doesn't work with comics Diana. I'm just going to tell you that right there. Immortal Wonder Woman works in modern day because that way she can be with Clark, and once he gets real old, she gives up and spends eternity. Yeah, there's any way you could do that, but that's my point. It's like she could be immortal later, like later on in the from modern day and on. I'm fine with that. But it's like, I don't want Wonder Woman to be like thousands of years old before she first comes to man's world, because that makes zero sense. So I'm like, no. Like, no, I'm sorry. Also, does this mean that Steve is a Navy SEAL now? So, yeah. Well, how about hybrid? How about 24 feet under? So, yeah. And we also need, can we get rid of Trinity as posted with this?
Hereby complete the mission of the Amazons by ridding this world of you forever.
Yeah, see, even Diana doesn't like Trinity. So, yes, I made a bunch of anti-Trinity clips that I'm going to have on the show for like ever until this character is like removed from continuity. Now, as for Steve, does it, since you're, oh man, well, what rank is that man now? Well, here's the other thing. Just Steve, here's the weird thing. So, if year one is canon, that means he's a Navy SEAL. So Tom King had him change branches to Marine Corps. Marine Corps is not the same as the Navy, bro. So I'm like, this is very, very, because it's firmly established in that book. Hippolyta is holding the patch for SEAL Team 3 when she's looking at it. So I'm like, what is going on here? This is something that DC really has to figure out and tell the artist, this is not, he's not in the Marine Corps. In which case he's not a colonel, because as far as I know, colonel is not a Navy rank. He was a chief petty officer in Rebirth. At least they got that right when they had him in the Navy in Rebirth. This is one of the things that I appreciated. It was right with like the military and stuff. The military stuff was actually pretty spot on with that. And I was impressed that Rucka got year one correct. In fact, you know what? How about I show you guys? Let me show you guys this. All right. And before you say because year one is canon that makes Diana bi, it doesn't mean that. Because all he's saying is that some of the events, the overall plot in this book is canon. He's not dealing with like individual, like, so not everything is canon. So I'm like, okay, it's just the overall like idea here. So let me go to this. And this is on DC Infinite. So this is essentially the canon origin for Diana's Wonder Woman. So as we go on, so here we go. So Steve is a Navy SEAL doing field exercises here. See, we have Diana partying, and they go to a shooting range. See, all this stuff is actually pretty on point for the military stuff. It's like Steve going swimming because swim training. Diana sees like Man's World. They go on a mission. Hang on. They go on a mission, and then they crash, and that's straight up the uniform SEALs wear on missions. The plane crashes, and then as it goes on, yeah, see, all right, so here we go. This is the patch for Navy SEAL Team 3, and they even comment on the Navy SEAL, on the parts of the Navy SEAL. Yeah, her being bi in your is canon for me. That will canon for you. That's totally fine. I'm going by what DC canon actually is, but anyway, it won't sell. But anyway, see, they even comment on the bird holding because what this is supposed to do, fun fact, the reason the significance of this logo is the eagle represents the air portion, the anchor represents sea, and then the airline, and then the pistol represents land, because that's what SEAL means in Navy SEAL: sea, air, land. And so that's kind of what they're doing here. And they are like commenting on the actual try. So it's firmly established now, I guess, that he is a United States Navy SEAL. So I'm like, then you can't have him be a Marine in Tom King's run. But then again, you really think Tom King cares? So I guess the way this works is that she leaves, and then we have the contest, and then see she tries out. And then Hippolyta still lets Diana like leave Man's World and show up. And then and the gods come and see her as like Disney animals, which I don't necessarily like, but still. Oh, he's even at the naval base in Coronado where SEAL Team 3 is based. So I'm like, oh, okay, you're even doing this right. See, this is And Britt, by the way, this was the one fun part of Wonder Woman Rebirth because they got so much of like the military stuff right that I was like, oh, okay, it's actually really cool. I dig this. The only difference is that if Steve is like a senior SEAL, he should have a beard. Why can't more people have beards? But there you go. And then it's all the Navy stuff is right, and then the gods show up and teach her English and teach her to speak like language of man's world and stuff. So there you go. That's kind of how that goes. Which hey, again, that was the fun part of that book, even though it sucked. Yeah, Tom King is not going to care about it because he is becoming the modern day Hugh must not be named because he ignores the continuity that doesn't fit his crappy story. That's it. Either that or he doesn't know comics like he claims he does. Honestly, either of those is the realistic scenario in this case. Which, by the way, we can see it still needs to be online. I think they'll keep him dead, Britt. I think, honestly, they're going to keep him dead because of because I think the reason why they killed him is because they really don't know what to do with Steve, and he's kind of redundant to Diana's stories. They're like, just leave it. Oh yeah, we know that. I'm not saying it's a better story than Perez, because trust me, Perez is way better. But I'm just saying it's like, again, it's like the simplified story. I don't even think Rucka talks about if she's made of clay or Zeus, but I'm pretty sure they'll go with the clay origin for that. The Perez origin is still much better, much better. So that's really my point. So here's the thing, and I'm going to update this because we also have some Wonder Woman updates. So Stephanie Williams is going to be announcing tomorrow, as a matter of fact, a Wonder Woman related project she's working on. This could be her announcing that she's taken over the main book, or it could just be like Sensation Comics. We'll see what happens. Could be either way. And the interesting thing is that the Eisner nominations came out, and but there might not reference at her being by in year one, but it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I know this is not much, but it went for me. You know what? If that's your headcanon, totally fine. My headcanon is that she's not, but you know what? If that's what you want to think, NJ, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm totally fine with that because you know what? You are respectful. So I appreciate that. And that's why you're always welcome at Comics League. But so the other thing, so the Eisner nominations came out, and here's the cool part. So yes, Tom King's Wonder Woman got nominated, as it did when the run first started. So this is not anything new. Absolute Wonder Woman got like 5 nominations. And I'm thinking, can you imagine if Absolute Wonder Woman sweeps and wins like all of its awards? That would be pretty interesting. And it would also show, because here's the thing, when you get to in this context, they can't claim it's like, oh, it's the Absolute brand and stuff, was why people love it so much. No, with this, it's like, no, it's actually award winning then. So you might want to revise how you're handling Wonder Woman. So, hey, it's all looking up for us, I think. And again, Gunn has updated that he has like positive news concerning Wonder Woman. And then Britt and I could conjecture about this. But all this on Super Wonder Legacy. The episode comes out tomorrow, so we'll see like what happens with Wonder Woman going forward. But again, let me put it this way: nothing changes my prediction that he gets to at least 30 to 50 issues before he's removed from the book. Nothing has changed, unless he dramatically improves the writing quality and like the sales go dramatically up. There's no way he makes it to 100 issues. The reason why he was able to get even close to it with Batman is because it's a Bat book, and Batman books always sell well, as opposed to like Wonder Woman, where depending on the writer, it doesn't. Now, again, I can't now, thanks to Absolute Wonder Woman, we can't say that Wonder Woman books don't sell well, because guess what? Absolute Wonder Woman is one of the top selling books at DC. So that is like very interesting there. Yeah, it's going to be very. I think honestly, with everything getting like cleaned up with the timeline and all this Wonder Woman news supposedly on the way, I don't want to get your guys' hopes up. I think that this could be the beginning of a Wonder Woman renaissance. I think because we have all this stuff happening, and then it's like Tom King's book keeps flopping. Absolute Wonder Woman keeps doing well. They're cleaning up the timeline, and we're supposed to be getting Wonder Woman news soon concerning like movies and TV shows. Which, hey, this could be the start of something. Again, I don't want to get my hopes up because every time I get my hopes up with DC, a lot of times they don't follow through on it. But you know what? There's some stuff to be excited for because let me put it this way. I'm excited for the Stephanie Williams book because I enjoyed her Nubia book. And I'm interested to see what they do for the show because remember, Paradise Lost was a holdover from the previous administration, for lack of a better term. So it could just be that they were using that as a placeholder, but they're gonna make like an actual Wonder Woman project. So we'll see. In ideal world, we'd be getting Sensation comics for Stephanie Williams tomorrow and Kelly. Yeah, exactly. So it could be that soon, NJ. But I'm saying. There's a lot to be optimistic for when it comes to our favorite Amazon. And that's the thing and that's a good thing because for the longest time, for like the past year, ever since Tom King has been on the book, it's been like essentially a brutal beatdown. And honestly, here's a representation of what it's felt like. That's kind of what it's felt like. So it's very nice to start seeing some positive news for Wonder Woman. Yes, it's a Wonder Woman renaissance. Exactly. It's very nice to be at least seeing some positive news on the horizon concerning this character. Because again, like Britt and I have said many, many times on this channel, this character deserves more than what she gets. She deserves way more because she is arguably the best female character in all of comics. She's the most famous female character in all of comics. Suck it, Harley Quinn. And if you're going to call her the pillar of DC, which they affirmed on the recent Warner Bros. Investor call, if you're going to do that, I'm sorry, you have to treat her as such. And you know what? If she gets Sensation Comics, which would essentially be her detective comics to expand her world, you better believe I'm going to be adding that. I'm adding every Wonder Woman thing to my pull list. And again, I have and you know what's interesting? Practically every modern Wonder Woman run is getting a reprinted omnibus this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if next year they reprint the other volumes of the Perez omnibus, because then we'll have all the great Wonder Woman content from post-Christ, because because we have Gail Simone, we have the first volume of Perez, we have New 52, but it is nice to see how many omnibus that Wonder Woman is getting, because that is really, really important for the health of the character, and it shows that DC at least has confidence in the character enough that they're reprinting omnibus, because I imagine that's a pretty expensive endeavor. Which the first one coming up is volume 1 of Greg Rucka, which it comes out the 27th, so in about 9 days. And you better believe I pre-ordered that, and I will be picking up. Maybe I'll make a video about it when it comes out. So because that is like one of my favorite post-crisis runs for any character, the original Greg Rucka run, because that balanced Diana so well. The warrior side when she fought Medusa, the diplomat side when she was more of a again, a diplomat and ambassador. That got Diana so right. And it's one of those things where that's why, again, it's like that's why I encourage people, support Wonder Woman books when you can, except for Tom King. Support like the old stuff instead of the new stuff, except for I'll obviously support Absolute Wonder Woman. You guys know what I mean by that. But because that way we need to show DC beyond a shadow of a doubt that this character is worth it. Because we all know, pretty sure everyone that's in this chat right now, Everyone that watches this channel agrees with me that Wonder Woman is worth the effort. She is a absolutely, pun intended, fantastic character. And arguably, in my mind, she is the best character in DC Comics, bar none. Speaking of Wonder Woman, if you read the Gail Simone book, because yeah, that run is good. I have the omnibus up there. There's some stuff I don't like in it, like Tom Tresser, but that one also got some pretty cool stuff going in there with like Wonder Woman. It's not altogether horrible and stuff. Actually, I'll get the omnibus. Hang on. I'm gonna have to move these action figures. Hang on. Okay. So here it is. So this is the Gail Simone omnibus for Wonder Woman. I'm going to take off the dust jacket because I'm not a savage. And this has like a lot of the really good Wonder Woman stories, like Ends of the Earth, The Circle, and it involves like certain Amazons that were trying to like protect Diana to protect Hippolyta from Diana. They have the entire like Tom Tresser saga, which I think sucked, but still, they have the team. This one has the team up of Wonder Woman and Black Canary and Wonder Woman Power Girl. So in other words, in this run, Wonder Woman teamed up with like a lot of other female superheroes, which was very good, and I really appreciated that. There was like a lot of really good stuff in this run. And again, it wasn't all good, but it wasn't all bad either. I really enjoyed reading this when I picked up this omnibus. It's really good, and that's like the look of it. It has like that marbly Greek mythology feel to it. So it's really, really, really good. And you also had the great Wonder Woman art by Aaron Presti and Bernard Chang. So there was like a lot of good in this run that people honestly forget about. Oops, fell over. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Technical difficulties. Move over. What other quick questions do you guys got from me concerning Wonder Woman, her new history, whatever you guys would like to know? Teaming up with female heroes, sometimes he's allergic to. I know, right? And it's like, that should be a no-brainer. So it's like, this should be very easy for you to do. So it's, I'm like, why is this such a problem for you? I get Tom King's justification for this, and like the exclusion of the Wonder Girls, because he was trying to show how Wonder Woman is great as a character by herself. But I'm like, bro, you're excluding a significant part of her world, so you can't do that. Again, this is why I get his intentions, but he has really crappy execution. Speaking of Wonder Woman run, I was thinking, I wish was able to have a proper ending as JMS, because while Superman run was disappointing, his Wonder Woman run was, his Wonder Woman run was actually pretty decent. I've read some of it. I haven't read all of it, which I want to, because I think that is a run that gets like overlooked a lot. But I can't wait to check it out. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. Maybe they can collect that in an omnibus or like a massive trade paperback. What else would you guys like to know? Ask questions and stuff. Any other like Wonder Woman related questions that you guys would like answered in terms of like where DC is going with the character in the future? I'm going to take off my hoodie because it's really hot. Any other questions concerning like her origin or story? When DC reboots, should they bring back the Longs? Because I felt that dynamic was wasted. What do you mean the Longs? Yeah, clarify, because I don't know what that is. Speaking of Wonder Woman, I'm wondering what's your least favorite moment for any Wonder Woman stories, like example, one romantic character. Just take any issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman, and that should pretty much be it. Yeah, that's it, Tavia. Take any issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman and just open to any page. That's how severe it is. That is how severe it is. Oh, Terry and Robbie's Robbie Long's Don. Okay, I never really thought about that. I have to read more before I can weigh in on that, because I don't know exactly like where I stand on those characters anyway. So I'm gonna check that out. Praying that we get some good news tomorrow, sensation, and that's a Wonder Woman solo movie or play. Yeah, exactly. It could be that. And Jay, it most likely what I think it probably is with the Steffi Williams is Sensation Comics. It could also be announcement that she's going to be taking over Wonder Woman after a certain issue number. Could be that. But I'm just saying, either way, it's more Wonder Woman content that's not Tom King. So literally either way, we win. Because if it's Sensation Comics, we get to read an alternative, and Diana gets more books out there. If it's her taking over as Wonder Woman, Tom King, this woman writer, Tom King is off the book. Literally either way we win. So as far as we know, it's most likely not going to be bad news. So that is very, very like, that's something to be excited about, I think. Speaking of how do you feel about Wonder Woman handling in Batman? I hated those. I really didn't like, because you're telling me that she falls in love with Lord Batman, still evil Batman, and then has to marry evil Superman. That is stupid. What was that? If she does take over Kentucky, I'm curious what she will do with Wonder Woman training. She'll probably try and, I like put it this way. It really depends, Tavia, because it really depends on if DC wants to keep the character around, because they could decide she's not worth it. Because I think that DC knows that the character is not liked in the overall fan base. And the Trinity miniseries that's coming out, honestly, I can't, I don't necessarily, I could be wrong. I don't see that selling well, ergo again, or even charting, or even being talked about. So I don't think that in any way that's going to do well. Ipso facto, they're gonna eventually realize, okay, people hate this character. Why do we stick her around? Why do we keep her around? And which will eventually lead to her being ignored. I don't think they'll let's say they decide to never use Trinity ever again. I don't think they'll actually have story-wise someone come in and like retcon her out. I think they'll just forget she ever existed. Like, they'll never reference her and like completely ignore her from continuity ever again, and never reference Diana having a daughter ever again. That's really that's the most I think that they will do in that sense. Could be wrong, but again, not likely. Not likely. Yeah, I can see Epic Kiss. Exactly. So I'm like, it really depends. So we'll see like what happens, but it's going to be very interesting to see where DC goes moving forward with this. But honestly, I still say there's more to be excited about than like apprehensive about. It just depends on like where we like how we approach things, how we look at it. What do you guys think? I'm still with retconning and making Diana's blood and clay. I love the idea of Diana having her own blood daughter. Yeah, exactly. But I'm just like, I don't think is that at this point with the more that they link Trinity in the fans' mind to like with that BS statue that came out in the Trinity miniseries. It's one of those things where I'm starting to think is DC really good? Are the fan base really going to accept Trinity? That's the thing. I don't really think so. Could be wrong, but then again, it's like I'm not altogether convinced. So, I mean, I'm definitely willing to be wrong, and it could be that it's like, yeah, it's fine and stuff, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I need to see more to see if DC can really pull it off. One thing I hope it does happen in the future with James Gunn as well, we can finally have a Wonder Woman video game. We'll see about that, because remember, that's James Gunn is not really in charge of that, so I don't know what role he would play in that. Steve and the Super Sons connection, she is easily fixable and likable. Yeah, but here's the thing, NJ. I know in continuity they could fix it, but in the fans' mind, she already has a crappy first impression. And the more that they keep hammering in that really crappy perception, it's making it less likely. Could still happen, but it's making it less likely that the fan base will really accept it, is my point. And again, it's like I could be very much wrong on this, but it's just really from what I see and what I think is most likely going to happen. It's like, yeah, I highly doubt that all this is going to work out like that. Could, but it's still like, really, why would DC put in the effort for that? What else do you guys think? Tell me something good. What other like Wonder Woman facts and stuff would you like me to clarify? Just have Trinity be Cersei's daughter, enough of the blood child. Let's get back to found families. Yeah, you could do that too. You could really do that, and it works for Diana's story. But again, Cameron, that doesn't fix the crappy perception that the fan base has with Trinity. And I'm not altogether convinced yet that DC is going to be able to reverse that. They could. I'm just still like, I'm still like, is that really going to? Is that going to work? It very well could. Let me be clear on that. It very well could. But it's just, I'm not all to. As you guys know, it's very hard for me to trust DC with this stuff because they always take great ideas, like fantastic. Because again, I'm not against the idea of Diana having a daughter, as you guys know that. It's just the problem is like I know the way DC is going to execute on that idea, and it doesn't necessarily work well. So I'm like, to be clear, there are still some fans that like her, but I'm of the opinion that it's not nearly as big as DC wants it to be. Because again, the daughter of Wonder Woman, that should be a layup. That should really be a layup in terms of like popularity. But again, DC is not working. So I'm just like, okay, guys, if that's really where you want to go, let's go. But if you don't think it's worth the effort with the character, then just get rid of her. Just get rid of her. That's really what I think that DC should do. Just because I think enough damage has been done to make the character unsalvageable. That's what I'm going to tell you right there. Plus the fact that she is redundant as a character. You don't need her when a similar, if not the same story could be told with the... Are you worried about Gunn's crappy power skill? I'm so worried he'll make her from Superman's level to Spider-Man's level, depending on what he did, arguably with the most powerful villain just creates. That is a real concern, NJ, and that is something that I'm like, please don't. But it depends on if Gunn is in charge of the project. Because here's the thing: I doubt that Gunn is gonna be in charge of is gonna want to take on a Wonder Woman project. Because I don't think that's a character he particularly likes or really has a connection to. So really, the way I kind of see it, it could be that he's like, look, I don't want to. It could be he's like, I'm not going to deal with the character, but it's like I'll have someone else do it. I'm not sure if it's going to be like Tom King or something like that, but at least that way you kind of you can kind of avoid that. It depends on if he puts someone that actually respects and loves Diana in charge of the project. Honestly, maybe it's just me, but they could have gone with Wonder Woman's daughter just made out of they did that, but they linked it too closely with Steve Trevor. That's where the issue arises, Tavia. That's where I'm like, why are you making it so it's like she is hyper dependent upon a man? What are you doing? That is completely stupid. Why does this exist? And I'm like, that's the way that's the problem there. That's the problem there. What else do you guys think? What other questions do you guys have? Everything with Trinity is a disgrace. No, yeah, exactly. I'm like, the character's not worth saving. Based upon how they've made her based around the antithesis of the character of the Wonder Woman character, I wouldn't even go for it. Because even the whole intention of the character, according to Tom King, is so Damian and John have a sister. That is the reasoning why Trinity exists, not how it aids Wonder Woman's character. It's so Trinity, Tom King, it's so It's so John and Damian can, in other words, the kids of Batman and Superman can have a sister. That is literally it. Her origin is based around the dudes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that is not the way you want to do for Superman. That's not what you want to do for these types of characters. That will backfire hard for you. I'm still hopeful Trinity can be saved with a heavy retcon and mail free. Depends on the writer, because and fans will give her a chance. I think DC would try. I don't think that the fans would give it a chance based on this, because whenever you look at Trinity, you will see that character that like everyone was like, oh, are you kidding me? That people are already calling her an industry plant. So it's like, you're not beating those allegations, particularly with how Tom King keeps talking about it. And by the way, here's an interesting little development. When Tom King was on a podcast talking about Wonder Woman, he was on the Comic Pop podcast, talking about how he still is not giving up on Diana and wants to stay on the character. The very fact that he says, I'm not giving up on the character on Wonder Woman, indicates that he has seen the backlash for that his crappy run has led to on the character. And I'm like, well, you deserve that. You definitely deserve that. So it's like, bro, maybe you should have actually cared about Wonder Woman before you started trying to make an OC. So isn't it kind of funny how that works out? But that's kind of my thinking, at least in terms of this character. What other Wonder Woman questions do you guys have? Let's try and do a little more positive, because we've done enough negativity. Let's go for a little more positivity. What else do you guys would like to know about, like maybe favorite Wonder Woman books, favorite Wonder Woman stories? In terms of like what characters I would like to see Wonder Woman in a team up with. By the way, NJ, we are going to have that episode soon, I promise. And by the way, I can update you that next week's Super Wonder Legacy is going to be a couples comparison. We're going to do Black Canary and Green Arrow and talk about how Black Canary and Wonder Woman have become accessories to the male characters. So that should be fun. Wonder Woman Absolute is great, but do you think she will help? Yeah, I think she will, because what's actually interesting is Scott Snyder has indicated that she will be the one that goes out and finds the other superheroes. So I think that she will bring the Justice League together, which imagine that in the Hell universe, Diana is the linchpin. So in other words, she's acting the most like Diana. It's kind of funny how in the alternate universe, she acts more like Diana than in the main universe. That is very, 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 very interesting. Funny you should mention one of those, because I was actually thinking about that question. Yeah, it's some great Wonder Woman stories that let me do solo first, because there are a few great team up stories that I think are great. Eye of the Gorgon, obviously. Hikatea's, I think, is a little overrated, so I'm not going to say Hikatea. I would say the Just War is fun because it deals with Wonder Woman trying to redeem her villain Ares, and that's actually a really cool storyline. And by the way, NJ, you would probably really dig that. I would say not Amazon's Attack, obviously. The Lords and Liars I like, because she has to team up with Maxwell Lord. Honestly, I think that Trial of the Amazons was pretty good because it tried to like expand on the world of the Amazons. It did a lot of like world building. They even had like data sheets that like explain certain parts of Amazonian culture. That's why I give that storyline a pass, because of how much world building it tried to do with the Amazons. which I think, again, that world deserves to be expanded because it is fascinating, the world of the Amazons. There is so much that should be expanded upon that hasn't been expanded. I cannot believe we forgot to think about how this same Wonder Woman will deal with rogues in this universe. It's the main. It's always back to the status quo, but this one, can they die? Wait, I cannot believe we have forgotten to think about how this same Wonder Woman, I think you mean absolute Wonder Woman, will deal with rogues in this universe. Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, she's not necessarily going to kill them in terms of like the later issues. NJ says Black Canary sadly is not her own character anymore. It's become a Green Arrow character and family. It's okay if you want them to hook up. I don't like it, but keep them separate, unique mythology. Yeah, I know, and trust me. Oh, and Britt and I, when we address it, are also gonna address it in terms of like, because she's another character that Tom King has butchered as a character. So, trust me, this upcoming Super Wonder Legacy episode is gonna be fantastic for Tom King hating. That's gonna be really fun. As it should, because Lord knows he deserves all the hate he gets. All the hate. But that's neither here nor there. What other Wonder Woman questions do you guys have for me before I wrap up for this stream? And by the way, at 7 p.m., we'll be going live again to discuss Batman versus Two-Face, the animated movie, because I couldn't do movie night yesterday because Robert had other commitments and this was his pick. So we kind of wanted to I always have a rule with the Comics League host that if they pick a movie, they have to be on the stream for that movie. Okay. Speaking of Wonder Woman and the Amazon's attack, is there good tie-in stories for Wonder Woman that actually made sense? With you mean for Amazon's attack? No. In terms of like Wonder Woman tie-ins, there's not that many good ones because Blackest Night sucked because out of nowhere it retcons in that she had a crush on Bruce Wayne, and I go, well, that's dumb. But what other tie-ins? Let's see. Blackest Night. What was a good one? I mean, let me put it this way: the Wonder Woman Blackest Night tie-in when she became a Star Sapphire, that was great. The one where she was a Black Lantern was great up until the end. Were you around when Amazon's attack hit the shelves? I heard JJheat that people almost rioted. I wasn't a comic book fan at that point, so I can't really weigh in on that. But it is the worst DC event of a long time. And I remember when Britt and I we're talking about Amazon's storylines. I had to explain to her the plot of Amazon's attack, and she nearly like freaked out. So it was very, very fun. It was very fun. And by the way, Britt, we may have to do an episode where we fix Amazon's attack. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah. It's like it's. I hope Hippolyta goes back to being immortal. Yeah, that could very well happen with Diana after losing her divinity. Hopefully, I think Robert's theory was interesting, in which Apollo is being manipulated and drugged to kill Ares. It could be that, and she just decides that she doesn't want to be with the gods anymore, which that would be nice, except it does interfere with like Mary Marvel, but still like do it, because I think honestly that was kind of a dumb idea to make her like the it was a dumb idea to kill her in general, but it's interesting to see how that like lines up. So I'm like, if they do it, great. I would love that, and I would love for Hippolyta to like live in man's world for a little bit with Diana and like be part of her support there, because she could essentially, when you think about it, become like Julia Capitelis right now, because we obviously don't know where the character is, and Tom King probably doesn't know who the character is. So there's like a lot that they could do with that. Ooh. So good news, guys. I got an update for you guys. So I submitted like back in 2024 my first CGC comic to be graded and signed. So it's Wonder Woman 800, and I'm getting it signed by Gal Gadot, and it's going to be graded and everything like that. So that's actually really cool. I just got an update for it. Sweet. Actually, speaking of Wonder Woman, the Amazon story, how do you feel about Wonder Woman, the Amazon's role in Infinite Crisis? That was pretty cool. I get why they wanted to leave man's world, so I'm like, okay, I kind of dig that in some ways, but it's interesting how that ends up, and it was part of like Wonder Woman learning to like connect to man's world. So I'm pretty cool with that. I'm pretty cool with that. Congrats, man. Thank you. You guys got to understand, no matter your opinion about Gal Gadot, the Snyderverse is what got me into comics. So that's why it's really important to me to have like this memorabilia and stuff. So Comics League would not exist without it. So let's be clear on that. But Angie says her living with Diana in man's world and guides. Yeah, and you could see like Hippolyta goes, this is man's world. Oh, wow, this is actually very interesting, Diana. I could see why you like it and such in that way. So that's actually kind of cool. I really like how they do that. So there's a way that they can do this, and it would really like develop her character a lot. So there's like a lot. And so I think that's a fantastic. That's probably the best new way to tell a new story with Hippolyta, and make it like, and have her like, because you can have her like she guides Diana, but Diana also guides her, and like you could do the fish out of water story kind of again, but with Hippolyta instead of Diana. There's so much you could do there. Plus, now that Hippolyta has been retconned to be Wonder Woman in World War II, she could see how man's world has changed since she was Wonder Woman. So there's like a lot that you can play with there. So there was like so much story potential. They could also have, or maybe Artemis is also be a guy to take over, since she's kind of up to. No, I don't want to. I don't want any more Amazon becoming gods. I do not. So leave that alone. We don't need to expand gods anymore. You could, if you want a god to replace Hippolyta as the H, have Hestia. There you go. You're good. Right there. So that's the way you replace Hippolyta. Just have Hestia take over as the H in Mary Marvel's like pantheon. There you go. You're done. There you go. This is why we need to write Wonder Woman. We could make Wonder Woman lighter work. Oh yeah, we would destroy it. As a normie, the Snyderverse, the reason why I like Superman and Wonder Woman, Diana and Clark have always been there just like Martian Manhunter to me. Yeah, exactly. It got me like to look at these characters more seriously, and that's why it's like I started my channel because I was excited about the Snyder Cut. So it's these characters are like these versions of the characters are important to me in that way. But yeah, it would be very fun if we could write for DC. That is the dream job. Is that I get Britt and I get hired to write Wonder Woman for DC Comics. That would be the greatest thing in the world. Yeah, because again, if they ask me what character I would like to write, and just say, just give me Wonder Woman, I will make her a top tier character like she deserves to be. Because you guys keep trying to do it, you guys keep failing to do it. So I'm gonna show you how it's done. And since so far they still don't care about the character, they may just give it to us. So who knows? Who knows? But I think that's a good place to leave it. So as for other comics content coming out, Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm thinking I would either do why new 52 Wonder Woman is so actually, you know what? I'm going to do discussing that statue in detail that was in the Trinity special, because I think it specifically discusses it. That one image perfectly encapsulates the problems with Tom King's Wonder Woman in a nutshell. So we're going to specifically do that. And NJ, if Britt and I wrote Wonder Woman, yeah, we would 110% do that. We did an entire Super Wonder Legacy episode where we talked about forming our own Justice League. I came up with the idea of like a Justice League made up of Amazons to help man's world see the Amazons more positively. That's the way I would do it. But continuing on, so let's see what else. As for yeah. So I'm gonna talk about that statue. That statue's very. I know I was gonna do the Blood of Zeus thing, but this thing came up, and that's an emergency. As for Under Two Capes, Robert and I are going to be comparing Death of Superman to Batman Nightfall, and what they wanted to do to Wonder Woman to give her own like 90s story. That was what Mark Millar wanted. And we'll also talk about like when Artemis became Wonder Woman, because there's a lot that's there. And as for, let's see, what else? As for Super Wonder Legacy, again, Britt and I are going to be comparing Superman, Wonder Woman to Green Arrow, Black Canary, and that's going to be really fun. And there's going to be a lot of Tom King bashing in that after the crapshoot that was Black Canary, best of the best. And as far as movie night, I got to get with JJheat to ask him what he's picking for movie night. But all in all, it should be a really fun week of content. I will see you guys later. Stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Steve Trevor, Steve Never. He belongs 6 feet in the ground. Zois and Max Back for Life. I will see you later. Bye-bye.